kill an opponent with the bare hands. The undesirability of using such methods in the execution of his duty has been pointed out to this officer. 1. Fog drifted up from the Thames, pushed by an early morning wind, yellow and menacing, wrapping the city in its yellow shroud. And when the duty officer at Wandsworth opened the Judas Gate and motioned the half-dozen waiting men through, they stepped into an alien world. Ben Garvald was last in line, a big, dangerous-looking man, massive shoulders swelling under the cheap raincoat. He hesitated, pulling up his collar, and the duty officer gave him a quick push. "Don't want to leave us, eh?" Garvald turned and looked at him calmly. "What do you think, you pig?" The officer took an involuntary step back and flushed. "I think you always did have too much bloody lip, Garvald. Now get moving!" Garvald stepped outside, and the gate clicked into place with a finality that was strangely comforting. He started to walk down towards the main road, passing a line of parked cars, and the man behind the wheel of the old blue van on the end turned to his companion and nodded. Garvald paused on the corner, watching the early morning traffic move in a slow line through the fog, judged his moment and crossed quickly to the small cafe on the other side. Two of the others were there before him, standing at the counter, while a washed-out blonde with sleep in her eyes stood at the urn and made fresh tea in a metal pot. Garvald sat on a stool and waited, looking out through the window. After a while, the blue van cut across the line of traffic through the fog and pulled in at the curb. Two men got out and entered the cafe. One of them was small and badly in need of a shave. The other was at least 6 feet tall, with a hard, raw-boned face and big hands. He leaned against the counter, and when the girl turned to Garvald from serving the others, cut in quickly in a soft Irish voice. "2 teas, me dear." He challenged Garvald to say something, a slight mocking smile on his mouth, arrogantly sure of himself. The big man refused to be drawn and looked into the fog again as rain spattered against the window. The Irishman paid for his teas and joined his companion at a corner table, and the small man glanced furtively across at Garvald. "What do you think, Terry?" "Maybe he was hot stuff about 1,000 years ago, but they've squeezed him dry in there." The Irishman grinned. "This is going to be the softest touch we've had in a long, long time." The girl behind the counter yawned as she filled a cup for Garvald and watched him out of the corner of her eye. She was used to men like him. Almost every morning someone crossed the road from the place opposite, and they all had the same look. But there was something different about this one, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. She pushed the cup of tea across and brushed the long hair back from her face. "Anything else?" "What have you got?" His eyes were as grey as wood smoke on an autumn day, and there was strength there, a restless animal force that was almost physical, and she was aware of her body reacting to it. "At this time in the morning? You're all the same, you men." "What do you expect? It's been a long time." He pushed a coin across the counter. "Give me a packet of fags. Not tipped. I want to taste them." He lit a cigarette and offered the girl one, the two men in the corner watching him in the mirror. Garvald ignored them and gave her a light. "Been up there long, then?" she said, blowing out smoke expertly. "Long enough." He looked out of the window. "I expect I'll find a few changes." "Everything's changed these days," she agreed. Garvald grinned, and when he reached out, running his fingers through her hair, she was suddenly breathless. "Some things stay the same." And then she was afraid, and her mouth turned dry, and she seemed utterly helpless, caught in some inexorable current. He leaned across the counter quickly and kissed her full on the mouth. "See you sometime." He slid off the stool and, with incredible speed for such a big man, was out through the door and moving away. The two men in the corner went after him fast, but when they reached the pavement, he had already disappeared into the fog. The Irishman ran forward, and a moment later caught sight of Garvald walking briskly along. He turned a corner into a narrow side street, and the